Hello everybody, this is TryandWear412, taking a look this evening not at a particular game that I played, but instead taking a look at some basic opening strategies for Austria-Hungary, a nation that a lot of people don't like playing, but one that I've had some fair success with. A lot of possible issues arise early on in the game for Austria. One of the biggest is the possibility of a Juggernaut alliance, that is an alliance between Russia and Turkey. When those two ally, which does happen fairly frequently in my experience, Austria is the first person in their way and often gets destroyed fairly quickly. Also, you notice here, the only place on the board where two opposing home supply centers border one another, so problems with Italy arise fairly often. And you also have another neighbor, Germany, who I honestly thought about ignoring because they are so infrequently an early threat. But they can be an early threat and can also be an early ally, so I thought I would mention them as well. So those are the things that we will be spending a little time looking at. The Juggernaut alliance is by far the biggest early threat for most Austrian players. That alliance exceptionally strong because Turkey controls the southeast corner of the map down here, and Russia controlling the northeast corner of the map over here. They cannot be flanked, and so they just kind of push their way west, destroying everyone in their way. I have found that the best way to deal with the Juggernaut, as Austria particularly, is to remind the Russian and Turkish players that everyone will be looking for a Juggernaut, and if it becomes apparent that there is one, which usually happens within a year and a half or so of the alliance being formed, everyone else will join together against them. And so instead I suggest that they add me as their second ally. Russia allies with me, or Turkey allies with me, and an Austrian-Russian alliance or an Austrian-Turkish alliance will not be so obvious, and try to gain a friend that way, and it has worked out fairly well for me. What that looks like in kind of more practical terms, when I talk to Russia, I usually try to work out a demilitarized zone or a DMZ here in Galicia. Let me turn on the abbreviations real quick. So they're in Galicia, oftentimes with a standoff. Not always sure that I want to trust Russia just to stay out of there, so a standoff is the best way to kind of work that out. When I talk to Turkey, usually the biggest thing in our minds is what happens to Greece. Who gets it? When do they take it? How long do they keep it? And oftentimes I have found it helpful to give Greece to Turkey in exchange for their promise to build no fleets. Turkish fleets typically the biggest problem for an Austrian player trying to get going. So if you have to give up Greece early on to prevent that from happening, not so terrible. Italy is the other country that I have had a lot of issues with when I play as Austria. A couple ways to prevent trouble with Italy. One, you could just point out the futility of most Italian attacks against Austria. They usually take a lot of time, very limited gains, if any gains, and usually Italy ends up dying in the process. I can't say that that happens all the time, but often. Another way that I have not used myself but have heard is effective is you can promise Greece or support into Greece to Italy in 1902, which can keep them from attacking you in the first year, and it's completely up to you whether you follow through with that promise or not, but it can be a way to keep them from climbing into your territory or making attempts on your territory in 01. Also, I have been involved in the past in what's called a Central Alliance, that is an alliance between Austria, Germany, and Italy, and have found that to be quite effective. So that's another possible way to draw Italy into your side, preventing them from attacking you early on. Again, Germany not usually a problem for Austria, but they can provide some help against Germany without ever even moving units this direction. Most German players will move this fleet from Kiel to Denmark, and a fleet in Denmark can threaten Russia's ability to take Sweden. I don't want to scroll up, but there's a territory here called Sweden, where Russia typically gets one of their first-year builds. Germany, by moving to Denmark in the spring, can prevent Russia from taking Sweden in the fall. And if you talk to Germany, make a friend in Germany, they can threaten Russia, telling them if Russia makes a move into Galicia in the spring, that Germany will prevent them from taking Sweden in the fall. I have had German players do that for me when I was playing as Austria, and was very grateful for it. And it's a good possibility, something to try for diplomatically if you're playing as Austria. Also, in your dealings with Germany, not a bad idea to try to work out with them a demilitarized zone, a DMZ, something they're usually happy to give to you, mostly because they're not interested in fighting you, and they are happy to know that you aren't interested in fighting them either. So just even simply telling them that you'll stay out of Tyrolia, Bohemia, and Silesia can make you a friend who will in turn give you a deal like the one we just talked about regarding Sweden and Russia. So the question becomes, what do those first moves look like? The most typical Austrian opening, or the maybe ideal Austrian opening, involves Trieste moving to Albania and Budapest to Serbia, frees Vienna up to maybe do a standoff in Galicia, perhaps move down to cover Trieste. A couple possibilities there. But the big thing is getting your army into Serbia and your fleet to Albania, where it can move to Greece with support in the fall. That doesn't often happen, mostly because you have other problems in the north. Russia, with the possibility of moving to Galicia, often you want a unit to stand him off there. You have the possibility of an Italian attack, either kind of around the north here, or even a more direct attack into Trieste. So maybe either needing a hold from Trieste, or Vienna moving to bounce there. Maybe Vienna bounces in Galicia, and Budapest bounces Trieste, which allows Trieste to move out. But the issue is, it seems that you have too few units to do everything you need to do. So there are issues, and a lot of those diplomatic issues that I mentioned before can maybe free up one of these units for you if you can get Germany to keep Russia out of Galicia. That allows you to use Vienna to guard Trieste and get into Serbia. If you can perhaps form a central alliance that you're fairly sure of, and you think Italy will leave you alone, then you can use that Vienna unit to bounce in Galicia. So a lot of the opening moves dependent on that diplomatic information, the diplomatic dealings with each country that we talked about at the very beginning. Another opening that I've never tried myself that I think has some real possibilities is called the Hedgehog. First off, I have to mention that the Hedgehog usually only gains you one build, rather than the two that I was kind of shooting for, Serbia and Greece. Often you would only get one, either Serbia or Romania. But the basics of the Hedgehog are offensive. So Trieste is ordered to Venice, Vienna typically to Galicia, and Budapest, in the true Hedgehog, I believe, ordered to Romania. Also there's a southern variety where it is ordered down to Serbia instead. The idea here is the move to Galicia prevents Russia from taking it, and if Russia does not order to Galicia, gives Austria the upper hand there. The order to Trieste, from Trieste to Venice, will of course block a Venetian attack, but if Italy attempts to move around the north side, we'll just resolve this here. You see that allows Venice to move to Tyrolia, but Rome can't get to Venice. There's a gap here and an easily defended western border on this side. So that gives you a great position against Italy, gives you the opportunity maybe to really infuriate your Italian neighbor by ordering a support move from Trieste, maybe signaling to him that you want him to back off, that you realize his army there is kind of impotent. Some possibilities for builds here. It's not a bad opening. It's again one that I haven't played much with, but it shows some promise. Might be worth trying the next time I draw Austria. So you can kind of see the opening strategies for Austria, at least as I see them, really strongly rooted in your diplomacy. First, make sure you break any possibility of a Juggernaut. Try to gain either Russia or Turkey as your ally as quickly as possible. With Russia, often a good idea to try to arrange some kind of DMZ or standoff in Galicia. With Turkey, figure out who's taking what in the Balkans, or at least a couple of them. Have some kind of arrangement there, an agreement. Figure Italy out, whether they are going to be an ally, maybe in a central alliance, or if you can keep them off your back by promising Greece later on, or even if you can't get them as a friend, make sure you can defend your western side, and use your resources. Use Germany perhaps to force Russia's hand. I didn't mention it earlier, but contact with France, getting them to move hostilely against Italy can be a great way to keep Italy off your back, and I've done that in games previously. And don't be too greedy. I mean, you can push and try to get the two builds, as some of my earlier moves would have done, the move to Albania and Serbia, giving you a 2-unit shot at Greece. But if you can only get one center, need the rest of your units to defend home centers, it's worth playing it safe. And in fact, my most recent game, played as Austria, only gained one center in the 1901 turn and won with 18. So it's definitely possible. Austria is a great country to play as long as you set a good diplomatic foundation. If you have questions or comments, I would love to hear them. If you're a more advanced player and have ideas that I missed, please let me know. And let me know what country you'd like to see next. Thanks for watching.